So as an assistant program director, what the hell did you do? Like, because that's a power role. So did you exert your power? Like, were you one of those women who like was laid back, cool, or were you the aggressive one, go out, get the talent, make decisions, fire, hire? Like, were you that girl?
I was very aggressive. My job at that station at that time was to do all of a lot of the creative on-air imaging, to create kind of this, what they call the stationality, the positioning statements, how the station sounds, who's the voice. I went and got Ice Cube to be the station voice because he was LA. And it was also a dream of mine to like write lines that then Ice Cube would stay in the studio. And that was a funny story that I write my book, because he was like, who wrote these? And I was me. And he was like, looked at me like, what? Yeah.
What the hell were you saying? Like, were you like some cornflake? Were you flaking over there, or were you like hip hop language?
Oh no, it was full on, like true to the streets, and that was our original. And it was like to the point where he was absolutely shocked that I was the author of these liners.
Of these liners.
So it was stuff like that, and then all the specialty shows. So all the programming that wasn't regular format drive time, but the specialty hip hop shows, the mix shows, the community programming on the weekend. That was all of the programming that I would scout and develop. And the best known show that I did at the Beat was something called the Ruthless Radio Show. And it was a partnership with Eazy-E from NWB, who did a show on our station.
Was he alive?
Absolutely, he was. He was running Ruthless Records, and he was playing me a brand new group that he was developing and releasing, and it was called Bone Thugs and Harmony, and he was desperate to break them. So yes.
So he had Ruthless. He had a Ruthless radio station.
And I went through the Beat.
Did you arrange all this? How the heck did you get to Eazy-E? Tell me about that. Give me an untold story and let me sip this tea. Because, honey, nobody knows this except you and your closest friends. Like, no one's ever talking about Eazy-E's radio station. I mean, radio channel or whatever. Go ahead.
You can search clips and theme songs on YouTube for Ruthless Radio Show if you search it. But how I linked, Eazy-E is, I will say this about that man. He was an extraordinary businessman and a unbelievable strategic mind. Like the person that he had two personas. You know, he had the Eazy-E rap persona, and then he was the CEO. And had a incredible business mind. So he was looking for, he had a vision for the show and was looking for a partner. He went to Power 106, who was our competitor. He came to us. I met him through our community director, who's a woman who's still on the air in LA doing great community work, named Dominique DePrima. And Dominique is who connected me to Eazy-E. And then we talked about the show. And I'm not a starstruck person. I'm like, you're on my airwaves and I'm down. I'm a fan, but the show's got to sound hot. So there's things you need to do. And he patiently did them all. I found a air check, like notes that I literally used to sit and air check this famous rapper. Like, this break was blah, blah, blah. And you need to get better at this break. And we got to have a host and we got to do it. So after every show, and he would patiently and eagerly listen because he wanted to get better. And he knew the power of that show. And he was right, because Bone Thugs and Harmony blew up over that program. And he kind of subverted radio ads by doing that. He didn't need to like go to radio. He had a radio show. It was
what day of the week? Like, how did that happen? What day of the week was he on? Was it like a time slot? What was that?
Once a week, Fridays, Saturdays. And this did not happen for that long, because Eazy did get sick about 8 months into this, and he told no one. He told no one. None of us who worked with him knew. It was, we got a phone call one day and he was already in the hospital.
What?
It went down so fast.
And then did his wife pick it back up, the radio show?
No, it ended when he passed away. That definitely closed. Now, there was a personality who came from that crew, who's a man named Julio G, who I like really pushed on the air because he was part of the original Mixmaster crew from K-Day, the legendary K-Day. It was Julio and Tony G. They were like, along with Dr. Dre and, the legendary guys in the market, but mix show guys. They had never talked on the air, but Julio had a naturally great on-air cadence and was so knowledgeable about music. So I would always encourage him, you should take the reins and get on the air and step forward and, lead this. And he did. And then he ended up becoming a major personality for the beat. And then he has his own program and franchise now called the West Side Radio Show, which was also developed. Yeah, that was developed at the beat. So it did kind of go on in its own way through Julio, but, it was impossible to do without Eazy-E there.
Exactly. I can imagine it. The authenticity of it is not there. That is so fascinating. Now, you were air checking this guy, never had an ego about it. Never. And he listened. So when Ice Cube discovered that you were the writer of the liners, what in the heck were you saying? Give me a line, or just hypothetically, if you can remember, while I sip this tea or this.
I mean, there was, I should have busted these out so I could actually read them because I still have them. It was stuff like always true to the game, 92.3 the beat, or I mean, we even had, because I was trying to shake it up. So this is walking the line of FCC regulation, but I had him say, 90s point Trey, we're the shit. And then we aired that without beeping it.
Right. Because you weren't allowed to curse.
No.
I remember there when I was going to place the first like alcohol ad on radio and television. Like that wasn't the norm. So he said, shit, you didn't get fined.
Yeah.
No.
We didn't get fined. No.
Wow. No. Interesting.
It was stuff like that. It was taking lyrics, pieces from stuff that he had said in his own records and NWA and applying them to these liners. That was like 30 years ago. So but a lot of it was about the positioning statement that he was embodying was about being true to the streets and being real to the culture, and representing California, in its realest way possible. So
and the beat was the streets.
Yes.
Basically. It was like our Hot 97 at the time when there was a big transition, or Kiss, and it's something like it went from pop to, or like Euro or whatever, into like all black, all R&B format. That was a shock, and we had to get used to it. So you created the brand, basically. You created that street brand that gave it the street credibility, put the artist on the mic, like exposed LA to LA street music or LA hip hop,
right,
to a large audience. That's dope. Like that's ground. Now, what year was you doing this? This is like legendary, girlfriend. You should be in an encyclopedia somewhere.
This is 93. So a year after the riots.
A year after the riots?
Mm-hmm. And that was another complicated thing about Los Angeles, is that what is a fractured, at the time marketplace, because, what a lot of people don't know, they just see like the media propaganda around there was an explosion, but there's all these other undercurrents, what were happening, not just the fact that the officers first of all, that was the first time I think, because it was pre-iPhone, that all of us actually got to witness without any filter, true police brutality. Right. So that was the first thing. Then to watch all the police officers who are white get off was the second thing. And the third thing that a lot of people don't know was there was an incident in a Korean grocery store where there was a young girl who was shot for the owner thought she was stealing orange soda, but she had the money in her hand. And that store owner also did not get any prosecution for killing this young Black girl. So the populace was up and understandably.
Right.
And so this was a really fraught time with a lot of tension. And that's, the other brainchild that came out of this station was No Color Lines and the Unity Through Music, which came from an interlude on the Janet Jackson Rhythm Nation album. There's an interlude where Janet says, "We're pushing towards a world with no color lines." So we took that inspiration. Huh?
Did you write that on the line?
Janet Jackson wrote that. I was inspired by it.
Right.
And then built off of it to help create this No Color Lines campaign for 92.3 The Beat.
Do you know that meant everything, because it not only spoke to the racial tension, but the gang color lines?
Yes, which is why our logo was red and blue.
And colors had came out, and we learned about what was really going on in LA that people couldn't. I'm from the East Coast. I had no clue.
Yeah.
And so, wow, for you to be able to translate that Janet Jackson line, translate it, brand it, and make it that's like incredible what you did. That's like advertising.
It's social responsibility, right? It's you have power to affect millions of people over a frequency. If be responsible with that power. And there was never any time that I was in radio that I wasn't acutely aware that I was responsible for the messages that I was broadcasting to this populace. And I take it seriously to this day. And that's why I'm fighting against media deregulation, because as you know, the corporate propaganda can affect the population. And we need to have positivity and not this divide and conquer, which is won for 200 years. So
do you think the way hip hop is today, and like the drill music, or like some of the lyrics, because back when we were in the 90s, we had harsh lyrics, F the police, all kinds of things that was said. Now we're like, I'm seeing a lot of senseless murders, not necessarily gang related, but it's related to lyrics. What do you think radio should do? If you were the program director or a music director, program director, what would you do with this type of music in a market that catered to people of color and that perpetuated violence? What should we do?
It's tough. And I learned this acutely at the Beat, because that campaign that I just told you about, this whole True to the Street, and I was like, love that we were like being so gangsta and like representing. And Davy D. Cook, who is a Black scholar from Oakland, he's the community director of KMEL, somebody I respect a whole lot, author, and has always been a moral force, not just within KMEL, but definitely had a strong influence at the Beat as well. I remember Davey having a conversation with me and saying, Michelle, it's dope what you're doing. And I understand that you're channeling, you're trying to channel like what is true Black culture through this. He's like, but you got to understand something. What is glamorous and might be cool to you, my people are dying in the streets here. And I'm not sure we should be going that hard in that message. And I was like, it was like a wake-up call. I was devastated by that. And I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. And that is when we pivoted to the Unity Through Music, because it was like, wow, we actually can't do that. Now, it doesn't mean not playing music that essentially, what these artists have traditionally done, including that record, Fuck the Police, which how prophetic was that? Based on what we see now. We're still fighting it all these years later. It's like unbelievable. What hip hop has continuously done, I think, is accurately express a life experience. And whether that should be amplified or not is, I think, up to the individual markets. But there was a shift that I saw that I'm perplexed by. It was I call it, because I was trying to explain to Andrina, there was the backpacker hip hop, which are people that they can sit like KRS-One, the ones that are spreading knowledge, Chuck D, KRS-One, Poor Righteous Teachers, X-Clan, right? That whole movement. Brand Nubian, who were transferring knowledge through incredible rhyme skill, but also knowledge. Tribe Called Quest, right? And that was backpacker. And then there was this, what I called shiny suit rap, and the assaults on the hip hop industry that I fully blamed on Puffy. And that came full circle in the weirdest way I would have ever thought. But I never was down with the whole agenda ever. and resented that it was going so like being vacuous. It's not what that art form was about. I mean, listen to the message. Listen to Eric B. and Rakim. Like that's not how it used to be. So it just is. But to answer your question, is drill music that shouldn't be represented? No, it should be. It's just, if you're going to do stuff like that, then there should be community accountability. So we played a lot of that music. We also had a weekend show called Street Soldiers that did on-air activism for people who are in gang life to get out of it. So it's like, you got to balance. If you're going to do this, if you're going to be in this space, then you need to be accountable to the community that you're broadcasting to and not just play the music.
Street Soldiers, I remember that. And I think they have that at Hot 97 too with Lisa Evers, or maybe not. Maybe it's
I'm sure they did, because Hot 97 was also created off the blueprint of KMEL.
Oh, okay.
Right down to Summer Jam.
Got you. Right down to Summer Jam. Interesting. So at Power 99, I was a producer and I guess, writer of a show called Sunday Morning Live, which was the Sunday morning. I used to have to get up. I had to be at the radio station like at 5 a.m. for this I think we taped at 7 and it was live. My daughter, I was a young mom. She would get up. She was like 4 or 5, and we would go to the radio station, and that would be my day of working, interning, not paid. Like, you got to pay dues, and it sounds like you paid a lot of dues. You actually influenced an entire market, which transcended to other markets. What are some of your regrets in the radio music industry? I know before I go on to Napster and what you're doing today, did you have any regrets besides what you mentioned, knowing a better way to communicate a message for the people, for the masses? What else did you regret or would do differently?
I would two things. One, I wish I knew the fundamentals of how the music industry actually worked when I was in that seat of power, because I didn't. I knew my little lens of it and not how it all tied together the way I do now. Right. So that's one regret, that I wasn't a better study of, like, for instance, copyright and two sides of a song and how that works, and the economy of music and how that worked. And the second thing is, and I think generally people understand this better in terms of work-life balance, but I took no time off. I was absolutely 7 days a week, 24 hours a day dedicated to my job. And these corporations don't care about you. They don't love you. You're going to miss your life. And at the end of the day, when you don't serve them anymore, which is what happened to me, you are handed your papers and said goodbye. So don't delay your life, your personal life, your boundaries, your personal space for these jobs, because it's not an even field when it comes to, them being loyal back. They're not. That is the essence of a corporation. So I wish I would have taken more time off and not work so hard.
Be loyal to yourself first.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yes. I mean, because there's, I'm not getting any of those days back.
And as a woman, we tend to overcompensate because we are already dealing with other, discrimination or, other ways of being held down. So you actually work hard. You think you're putting in those hours and it will be appreciated. But the beautiful thing about that is that like that's something that you loved. So even though you would have done that differently, you learned and you grew from everything that you did. You weren't wasting that other 24 hours getting high, partying. Well, you could have been partying because work is a party, right?
Oh, yeah.
But doing something you don't have any business doing. At least you were doing something positive. Did you take the time to start a family? Did you want a family? Was that something in your wheelhouse?
I really, from the time I was a small child, a little girl, no, I just never wanted that for myself. My mom tells me a story about when I was like 6, she bought me like a, you buy the little girls like dolls, and I gave it back to her and said, can I get like a pony or a dog? I was like, I don't want
an only child.
Huh?
Are you an only child?
Oh, no. I'm the oldest of 4, and I'm 6 years away from one sister and 10 from another. So I actually help raise them, which is another thing. I learned the great secret about motherhood and how none of y'all sleep for the first 3 years of your life because the babies don't sleep.
You learned that?
Yeah, because I took care of not only my young sisters, but also other people's infants babysitting when I was young.
Okay.
And it was like, nope, I'm out on all that. I'm out on marriage.
Good. I just want to work and have what do
I have my whole life.
A support dog. Do you have?
I do have a dog. Yes.
See, you got yourself there. They don't talk back most of the time. So I have some other questions because now you were the VP of Artist Label Relations for Napster. Napster, I want to feel like that was a thing of the first streaming. What was it really? Because it's kind of, go ahead.
Yeah, it was 2 things. So the original Napster that was invented by Sean Parker was a type of software that was a file sharing server that allowed users to connect to the internet and then dig into the hard drives of people who gave them permission. You look through song files and then you take the things that you wanted, but there was no economy around this. It was like all file sharing for free. So that's what was originally created. So the RIAA, which is the Recording Industry Association of America, sued the original Napster for copyright infringement. You're not paying us royalties. At the time, there were upwards of 80 million people on the file sharing platform. And the big secret, you wanted to have insider tea, and they definitely don't trumpet this around. But at the time, Napster had, like I said, 80 million people on the platform, and they sent a message to the users that said, if we charge you $5 to access this platform to pay for the music, because we're talking to the labels and the rights holders, would you pay for it? And like 75% of the people were like, absolutely, I would pay for it. But that wasn't enough for the RIAA. They wanted more. So, the Napster was like, we have 75% of 80 million people. I can't do that math in my head, but like that will pay $5. Just give us the rights and we'll start funneling money. And the RIAA was like, no, we're shutting you down, because the issue was the record industry wants to lock down the supply chain. And they've successfully done that with streaming. And that's a whole, I'm doing this now on Instagram where I'm explaining why it seems like it's this democracy where you can upload your stuff, but you're being absolutely snowed. It's a complete lockdown of the ecosystem. So that's what they were trying to do. And that's why they sued Napster into oblivion, to where they had to abandon the file sharing. Where I came in was they then relaunched it. And they wanted to develop a software that would act as portable streaming. So it was literally the first iteration, way before iTunes was even debuted, but way before the iPhone. It was the first iteration of taking music mobile in a device. But it wasn't this one, obviously. It was a Samsung little, hardware piece. And, Napster to go. You can download your music and listen to your music as you're going around. So that's what we were trying to message to the business. But there was, misunderstanding, ostrich in the sand, people not wanting to acknowledge that the genie is out of the bottle. MP3 is here. It's not going to change. You've the resistance and the denial that I got from the traditional record industry, who just wanted to make that go away, was stunning. But that's what they tried to do until they just kept losing money every year, to the point that that's when iTunes, Steve Jobs invented his little piece of hardware and then built the iTunes store to monetize it. Apple's never been about the music industry. I love them. I'm glad, but they're a tech company. Don't get those things confused.
Well, oh my gosh, we're going to take a pause. You have just spilled some serious tea. we have gone from how'd you get started to Napster and all of the information, because I'm telling you, Napster was the blueprint to iTunes and everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Just like before Facebook, there was another thing we used to be on. What was that other platform before Facebook? It was like a social.
Are you talking about MySpace before?
MySpace. So Napster and MySpace was around the same time, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. We got the tea. Stand by, guys. We're going to take a pause for a little cause. And we'll be right back with Michelle S., a.k.a. Professor S. Guys, like, I'm back and I'm having a freaking hot flash. And I'm not going to front and act like this is not HonesTea On Demand, but I started to have this flash and I was like, oh shit, Michelle, let me go on camera with this shit so you can see it's real in the field. Okay, I'm back. I took that pause because I wanted you guys to check out my little station break. Anyway, you know, it's Sabrina Stogeraldino. I'm here with my girl, Michelle S. We're going to get right back to her, but I want you guys to please subscribe. Tell a friend. I need your love. I need your support. Tell a friend, like, share. And if you don't like, tell me in the comments, well, what you don't like about me or my show. I know a lot of people say that I'm like extra and all this other stuff, and they're right. So anyway, I'm back with Michelle.
You jumped at 100 with that hot flashes. Those are brutal.
Girl, I'm still in the middle of it, but I had to get back to you because when you said that backpack shit, I thought of Kanye West, like the backpack kid. Now, I also discovered that you worked with Missy Elliott and Timbaland on The Rain. What was that like? Do you like Timbaland? Please give me some tea. Is Missy a gem? Like, what did you do?
Missy is an absolute gem. And my relationship with them was when The Rain debuted, or when The Rain was being originally like kind of introduced to everyone. Most people thought the song was strange. This is a weird cadence. It'll never work. It's a slow. I was enthralled with that record because I could hear that what Timbaland was doing was like cracking a new code of production, is what it sounded like, you know? And so we led the way on that record, way ahead of everybody on that particular song. And then as a big thank you, when we had our Summer Jam show, the original Summer Jam, Missy came around and she performed. Obviously, this also led to Aaliyah and that her whole run. And Aaliyah was another artist that we worked with. And man, just gem, another absolute gem of a human being. And that was, I think what Timbaland was known for was, it was the first fusion. It was the first like hip hop feel of, you took like R&B and hip hop and really fused it. You know, I think Pharrell ended up kind of taking the baton and doing it later, but that song was a game changing, and then was the advent of all that entire movement of music that came in that Timbaland led. So yeah, I see him on social media now. He's hanging in there now as a commentator of the business.
Yes, as a professional. But my question to you is, because you were on the West Coast, when I would go to the West Coast, I would stay at the Oakwoods.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I would stay at the Oakwoods somewhere in the valley, or right. That's the valley. The music was totally a different vibe. I remember I went to Death Row Records. You know, I go in there, they asked me, who's your favorite artist? And I was like, Biggie. And honey, I was bold and crazy. Like, I walked out of there and I had my legs, like nothing happened. But I really did say that. I remember my cousin Janella being so mad because Janella Segura started with MC Hammer as a dancer, became a choreographer and stage director. And she worked at Death Row, and I would drive her, you know, I would visit her. I would stay in the Oakwoods. I would drive her Amigo Jeep stick shift to Wilshire, I believe that's where Death Row was, and park in the garage, go up in the elevators, go upstairs, and just they were like, "You from New York?" And I was like, "Yeah." What's your favorite rapper? I remember the guy's name was Homicide. No, his name was
the DJ Homicide.
Heron. His name was Heron.
Oh wow,
Heron. asked me who was my favorite artist, and I said Big. He said Biggie or Pac, and I was like Biggie. That was dangerous. Now,
yeah.
I never really heard East Coast music on the radio there. Like that whole vibe, that whole radio feel was definitely a West Coast feel. And don't get me wrong, like I didn't like Pac the way I like Biggie because I didn't hear all of Pac's music the way I heard it in LA.
Yeah.
That's an intentional thing for you guys to want to play regional artists or artists that are from your region. But how did you balance that? Like, was it intentional to not have a lot of East Coast rappers or just specific amounts? Because remember, you're on rotation. I would hear West Coast artists on rotation, Scarface, MJ, anybody but us. What is that normal?
Well, no, I don't know. What years were you?
90s, early 2000.
Okay, yeah, because it became kind of more pronounced as time went on. In the mid 90s, we were trying to represent the best music. I mean, it was always about. I joke with friends. There was a DJ named Melody who's part of the Beat Junkies, and he had a saying, "I just want to be dope." And we really adopted it at the station. Like all the things we were doing, we just want to be dope. Like that was literally it. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about like anything other than like, let's do the sound the dopest and do the best things. So
it wasn't dangerous. It wasn't dangerous. That was dangerous times for us.
Oh, it was dangerous. It was the height of gang activity in LA and West Coast for sure. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to play a great record by a artist that just happens to be from New York. That definitely does not represent unity through music. That's literally against what we were saying. Was like, we can all come together here and agree that like, we're great. And like in the Bay Area, Notorious B.I.G. was as beloved by Bay Area as Pac was. So, it wasn't, people on the West Coast didn't have that attitude towards New York, but it's not the same. New York wasn't playing, Snoop Dogg. They weren't playing G-Thing.
True.
They weren't playing any of that, but we were playing their shit.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking, but I did not hear a lot of New York hip hop. Maybe a couple of artists.
Yeah, by the 2000s, probably not, right?
Yeah, it was
the ownership had changed by then. It was fully, by 2000, radio was fully corporate and had fully deregulated into these gigantic clusters. So I left in 99, right at the end, right before Clear Channel totally took over. I was the last assassination in the the station was on a #1 book in 99, and they just like cut me. They're like, thanks. You're done here. Because they were getting ready to, do their deal and spin off the IP and sell the station, and Clear Channel was coming together. So
what did you do? Like when they gave you your walking papers?
I was in shock. And it was on my birthday. They fired me on my birthday.
Shut the hell up.
Where?
Who fired you on your birthday?
The general manager, who, by the way, and I write about this in my book, was in, and I'm not overstating, dramatic tears over having to fire me. And I was like stone faced like this, like while this man is crying. And I'm like, if you're that upset, you can always not do this. It's not like, it's not like the station's #1 in the ratings right now. Like, but it was corporate. It was not his decision. He was a local general manager, and corporate was like, no, we're out.
They wanted to put someone else in your seat
because they were spinning the radio off, the station off to Radio 1. And so they sold it to Radio 1. That's when Steve Harvey debuted in the morning. That was that iteration of the beat. So it went from hip hop to a more, Radio 1 was like, we're not doing that street thing. We're going to do our own thing with this signal. And that's what happened.
Mainstream.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I hope you had a good exit package at least.
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, but I was just stunned. It was like hitting a brick wall at 90 miles an hour.
On your birthday.
Like,
they gave you the best gift ever.
They did.
Bye. See you later.
Yes.
Right. And then what did you do? Napster.
What did I do after I went to, oh, wow, this is where the veil was lifted on the industry. I went to work for a trade magazine called Hits Magazine.
Oh,
Yeah, the trade publication, which is where I learned about the whole other side of the business that was never purview to me. And that was the backside of the industry that pays for airplay, that basically has people on a payroll, gives people straight up cash to get records on the air. And that was shocking for me because I was brought up by mentors, two Guy Zapolian, that man in Phoenix, and then Keith Naftali, the man in San Francisco. And both of them had the same philosophy. If you're in this for the music and you want your opinion, your track record, the ads that you do with the station to mean anything to anyone else across the country or other music people, then you will not ever take a dime for influence. Because otherwise you're just going to go in that pile. Exactly. But what I realized once I went to Hits was we were the only ones who weren't. Everybody was taking money.
Payola.
Everyone. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, it was like being told Santa Claus isn't real. It was like, and these are like my peers. But it was like this big secret, no one told me that, oh, I'm working with an indie and he's paying me $700. I even remember the guy from the company saying to me, Michelle, you actually ran significant and powerful radio stations. If you would have worked with the game, you would have figured out, you would have been able to live in a house in Bel Air because the magnitude of the stations that you ran.
You were at major
you
market.
could write your own check. And I was like, but I didn't get into the business for that. It means more to me that Common and his manager actually thanked me for helping his career. That's why I'm in it.
Right.
And that continues to this day because no one is going to get into teaching for the money.
No. But it is an honorable seat that you are in. Okay. Don't even sweat it. You're teaching. I don't regret it. Exactly. You have no regrets. You're getting Gen Z's input and insight. I mean, up close and personal, because I don't understand these people.
Yeah.
These humans. They're
an awesome generation.
They're different. So you're lucky. Okay. Let me ask you. No, you liked working with Timbaland?
I didn't say that. I just said that he definitely led a interesting revolution. No, I mean, he's also very well known for signing young producers and then just taking, putting them under. And then it's like the whole way that the business gets over by kind of building on the talents of other people and then kind of stepping on it to get ahead. And I just philosophically reject that. I believe in putting people on and helping their career. I mean, I was taught you hire better than yourself because that's how you win. Exactly. So it was foreign to me, but I was in the minority.
Foreign to you, huh? Well, let me ask you this. The last question, you got to be honest too with this one. Have you had any executive or talent ask anything of you that was unusual or unexpected that you'd like to share with me today?
Oh,
because yes. You are beautiful, you are brainy. Who knows? I want these people to learn. This is the world of entertainment because I find too many people shocked about Puffy. Not to say that he's guilty, but just shocked that this could happen. And there's a video.
Not anybody in the industry.
Not any of us. But I mean, the people that are watching, they need to know that real life scenarios that happen in the music industry happen to them as well. And there's a way that you could handle it. Or, like me, I made everybody my brother. So I didn't sleep with anybody. That was
I had a little run-in with Russell Simmons, who is somebody that I completely and totally looked up to. He's the founder of Def Jam. I went to New York. This is when I was running KML. I think I was maybe 23 years old. And he showed me around the Fat Farm. That's when they had that fashion line and, Def Jam and the whole thing, and just kind of being wined and dined by the record executive, which that had been happening. I started when I was 15, 16. So I'd been going on industry dinners and none of that was unusual. But then we're alone in the limo and he, started getting like fresh. And honestly, I laughed at him. I was like, are you, Russell, are you serious? Like right now?
Man.
I'm trying, do you understand? I am trying to be you. I'm not trying to get with you. You got me all the way fucked up. Like, nah, it's not happening. Like, go away. And he was not threatening and, but it was just like demoralizing as this man that I like absolutely looked up to and loved was literally like begging for the pay. And I was just like, just don't, you're embarrassing yourself right now, bro.
Right. Don't do it, Grandma.
Don't, no. And so that was the one, but I was just trying to make sense of it. Like, really? Did that just really? That's why I'm out here to get the big, because he wants.
But you see how you handled that?
Yeah.
No pressure when you say no. So girls and guys, be okay with saying no. If it makes you uncomfortable, make a light joke out of it. Yes. Get the heck out of the way. Get out of the car. But, you can be yourself. That's what I want people to learn from this. Like, you don't have to feel pressured. There is no pressure.
No.
No. Yes.
And no obligation, no matter what anybody tells you,
Absolutely not. Well, that's one of the best things I could leave off on because I'm not a boss bitch. Excuse the bitch, but you're a boss bitch. And I loved it. I'm definitely going to stay in touch with you, Michelle. Do you mind?
Oh, gosh, I would love that.
I would love to stay in touch with you. One day, I would love to come up there and sit behind in the back of the class.
Oh, you could come as a guest speaker. I teach a radio class for Newhouse. Radio. Yeah. So
that would be fabulous.
Yeah, the record industry is one part, but I also teach radio fundamentals for the communications school as well because I love radio.
I do too. I started with the dinosaur board. You know what? I literally told the intern, my boss that I could do splicing and editing. My girlfriend showed me one time and it took me like 2 hours.
Yeah, but still the same thing. It's like fake it till you make it. It's like me with the DJing. Yeah, I can do it. I'll just figure it out.
And my boss was like, what took you 2 hours? I was like, oh, I was just nervous. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I only saw it the night before one time.
Those days.
Paste.
Yes, and the tape and the cutting.
Can you imagine? Like, I'm not even a technical girl. I barely know what I'm doing on this damn yard stream. But anyway, I loved every minute, Michelle. We must have a part 2. You're part 1 and you're part 2. We must have a part 3 because you're amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on here. I'm honored. It's awesome. And I think you're going to do fabulous with this. You are a natural.
Oh, thank you. This is HonesTea On Demand. We got Michelle S. in the house. Michelle, tell the people how we need to find you on Instagram and TikTok
at Michelle S. Fresh. All one word. Yeah.
Michelle S. Fresh. Who the hell does that? You know you're Andrina's friend, Michelle S. Fresh. Follow Michelle S. Fresh on Instagram and TikTok like I did. And she is going to keep us posted on everything that you're doing. We can't wait to promote you. Michelle, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, guys. Please, I'm glad. I hope you love this interview. And if you like it, please tell a friend, like, share, and subscribe. See you later, guys. Thanks for joining HonesTea On Demand. Bye, Michelle.
Bye.